So is this really also a question of time frames? Because you spoke a lot about the need to have a long-term perspective, which drives your engagement.
Look, I mean, if you're one of those investors that wants to come in and out and hit and run, and you're not, that's not a place for you to think long term. Us for managers, entrepreneurs, employees, we need to think of our organizations as sustainable. This is where we make our living at the end of the day. I can't think of what I'm doing tomorrow morning. I have to think tomorrow morning and the day after and the day after and the day after, because we, again, we're human beings. We need to think about our sustainable existence as individuals. And we need to always remember that you cannot, a company cannot be, a company has feelings because it has people in them. So you need to think of it as such. And long term is about sustainability. I mean, it's what keeps us going. There's no short term to it. I mean, I'm not gonna say I have a company, I'm gonna do business for 1 year, I'm gonna make a heck of a lot of money, and I'm gonna close down. It just doesn't work. Companies are there because they want to continue to be there. You might be bought, you might cease to exist as a company, but you will exist within somebody else's community at the end of the day. But your form will change, your shape will change, your raison d'être might change. But at the end of the day, you still have people. You will still continue to want to exist over the long term.
How do you translate into your commitment to social responsibility also in the times of crisis? This has been a difficult year.
Well, that was a beautiful year for us because we actually accelerated our programs during this past 12 months. Yeah. And we still have 24% increase in our net income in the middle of a crisis. So I mean, that's how I shut my shareholders up. I tell them, leave me alone. 25% of increase in net income is good enough for me. It must be good enough for you, and I'm going to do all these other things at the same time.
Yeah. Was that a difficult? I guess.
I have an attitude problem with my shareholders.
Well, as long as they get a return.
I've been around for 27 years, so they haven't distrusted me yet. So they might kick me out one day, but I'm here.
That's good. It's good to have good shareholders. Oh, I lost this one. How do you be as a global company? How are you local at the same times in the communities you operate?
We're totally local. We are, from day one, decided that we can only be global by splitting the company into small units that are in touch with the communities, meaning, or the customers, if you want to call them that, and then eventually communities when you're talking about the macro existence of a company. But we don't think of ourselves as, we don't have a headquarters, for instance. We call our corporate office, not even a corporate office, we call it the Global Services Office, which means what I do for a living as a CEO is serve the people that are on the front line. The back office serves and empowers the people on the front line, and every manager that we have in every country acts as a CEO. He takes all decisions. It is his baby. He fires, he hires, he makes profit, he bonuses, he does everything. And we have shrunk the company into many units inside even the countries. So we are a team-based organization, meaning in the UAE, for instance, we employ about 2,000 people. We have, our sales organization is split into units of 5. So the company is never bigger than 5 people in front of anybody that touches us. And that's how you humanize your interaction with the people that you work with, because you're no longer a number. You can identify with 5 names. A team, the concept of team and a team serving you rather than one individual serving you, or a big company that has 10,000 people serving you. So again, this is the story of empowerment. So I'm empowering the people on the front line because that's what decisions are made. I can't be knowledgeable about what happens in China all the time, but my manager in China knows what's happening in China, so he needs to take responsibility for what happens in China. So it's his baby. He knows what it is. But there are certain standards that we all adhere to. So corporate culture, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we deal with each other, there's one language, one currency, but everything else is local. And you have to customize, and you have to hire in China, you have to bring a Chinese man to become your CEO. It's a must. So you're local and global, as Tom Friedman says, glocal.
Yeah.
Glocal.
You made a point, and you made a lot of good points, but you made a point around the relationship to government and that business has to step in when government is not capable or fails or whatever reason. But is that a unique for the region in which you are the most operating? Are we seeing a new social contract? Is that what you're looking to?
Yeah, and there needs to be a new social contract, but we need to view ourselves at the private sector in terms of our social contract vis-a-vis the communities we operate in. And McKinsey comes out with a lot of reports about the new social contract of businesses in the communities. Look, governments feel it is their domain. Less here, maybe, than in other countries. You have democracy here. You have, if you don't like your government, you can vote it out, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get into politically sensitive issues at the end of the day. But I tell my friends in the private sector that in the absence of such accountability for our governments, and it is about, because, if you're not accountable enough by your electorate, you can conduct yourself without being questioned enough. But the new business entrepreneurial generation in the developing world is influential enough to either influence government in a positive manner, and that is our responsibility, because we can't act like government does when government is not doing well. So if the government is not regulating me, it doesn't mean I can be polluting. In the absence of regulation, you self-regulate, or you go in and lobby with government so that there is proper legislation so that it affects the rest of the businesses. But at the same time, we also need to always remind the private sector of the issue of profitability. As much as I talk about it, or profit maximization, and many private sector companies are just not interested. They're not interested, but you need to wake them up. You need to create enough of a group of people, specifically the new generation, which is not dependent on government for its wealth. The new tech guys that have gone through IPOs, who are actually being wooed by government. They can influence them in return. So we need to stick together, people that think the way we think, because we need to have a better livable society at the end of the day. And the better livable society is better for me, for my kids, and it's good for my company.
How do you do that?
Oh, you get in trouble. You get in trouble. I have chosen to do that. I have done that for a long period of time. I am, again, I get engaged, and I have a lot of my friends and a lot of the business community in the region who sees that this is an essential part. We go out and we take risk. I mean, this is a risky manner. And change, leadership is about risk. Entrepreneurship is about risk. It's about failure also. So, and if we embrace that concept of accepting risk and failure, then we're going to step up and know our limits slowly but surely. We will know how far we can go. But you will never know unless you try.
Before we open up the floor to questions, just want to touch one very ambitious commitment that you have made, which is risky, which is around becoming the first carbon neutral logistics, major logistics company in the world.
Yeah, and that we had a big debate inside the organization. I mean, how can we ever claim that we want to be the only or the first carbon neutral? I mean, it's the biggest challenge in our industry today. But we're lucky that we're non-asset based, meaning I don't own any of my assets. I don't own planes. My trucks, yes, we lease our trucks, but these trucks, even if you lease them, they emit carbon. So we have gone and are going through a process. We deliberately said, okay, this is a very ambitious target, but why not? So what? Let's try. If we fail, we'll continue saying, we're trying, but we're failing. But we're gonna get closer to it eventually. So we're buying hybrids now. We're changing many cars to compressed gas in the countries that we are. We're moving away from unleaded gas, leaded gas. So there's nowhere, because in the region there isn't any regulation regarding leaded, unleaded. So we are self-regulating in saying no leaded gas.